Going on, my friends? This is Rick, and you're not. This is your seat at the table. Actually, this is Rich's particular gripe and bitch session and or state of the channel combination a little bit. The state of the Fatman, state of the channel. Stick around for a handful of me blathering, or take off, however you want to do. Uh, like I said, I'm going on 4 years. I don't know. I've got access of 500 plus videos and or more on the channel and or affiliated with the channel someplace out there anyway. Uh, Recently, I've had last year was a real rough year for a lot of us. Uh, I did fairly well, and I guess we managed to keep our head above water. We kept all our bills paid. We had some couple of months there early in the summer that or spring was bad, like everybody else, and COVID was shutting the government and COVID, and everybody was shutting all kinds of things down. We're all burning through stuff. Uh, like I've probably griped and said in the past, one of my downsides of working where I work is I don't have insurance. I was able to get tuned in late in the fall or early fall to a local county hospital who has a program for people who are like me, who make a little too much money, who can't afford to have Obamacare. It's there's such an amount of money, and I'm sure a lot of you people are in the same boat. You pay what you got to pay for your insurance. My choice was my mortgage or insurance. My wife is disabled. She has her epilepsy is to a point where she can't hold a job down any longer. And so she qualified. She gets Medicare, but her prescriptions are not covered by Medicare, so we have to pay for a supplemental insurance. And then there's a 3 month or so window when we're at the beginning of each year, like right now, where we have to pay out of pocket full price, and help for our meds are expensive. The ones are almost 150 bucks. That's a lot of money. On a good 40-hour week, I'll take a $400 check home a week, and you can't walk out of the grocery store without dropping 150, $200, and then that leaves the rest of the bills to be paid. Which, hey, it's all part of life, right? But I got tuned into the insurance and what do you want to call it? They call it community cares. So it pays most of it is for me free, thank God. And it came at a really fortunate time this past winter. Uh, I started noticing late last year that I was going to the bathroom a lot more than I ought to. It was becoming a very big problem. I knew something was going wrong. I was drinking a lot of Pepsi. I've always been a Pepsi drinker all my life, and I've drank way too much. When you're going through 2 cases of pop a week, you're drinking way too much, and it has its effects for you young folks. Don't buy into it. What you can't see so much in here is that a lot of my upper teeth were in very bad shape. I had a lot of missing teeth, and some were they were beyond fixing pretty much. Part of the community care was dental work, and I got in to see a dentist, and the dentist said I was not a candidate for root canals because most of my teeth have had root canals, right? And I'm 50, be 55 this year, so we're in that age bracket anyway. But when you drink the sheer amount of soda or Pepsi or pop or however you want to look at it, it's called pop in the Midwest here, by the way, that I did on a regular basis, you're going to have issues. One is I've always been overweight, and my weight's gone up and down. I weighed 230 when I got out of high school in '85. In '16, I actually got my weight down to about 270, and it was in part because I'd cut out a lot of that Pepsi. And then we run into some situations, which is all in there in bits and pieces of some of my old videos. But basically, my wife and I found ourselves living in an old RV for a couple of years while we tried to reassess everything. And it took us a minute and a while to get ourselves a home, and we've been secure. We're well over our second year now, into our third year here, and we're utterly grateful for it. Some of the issues and things like that always stop. Home ownership is fun, but I've been lucky and blessed in some aspects in that perspective. But so I went in, and I've probably been into the doctor's office twice a month now for the last 4 months, and it's been up and down. Uh, the dentist removed basically all my upper teeth. Uh, I still have issues. I can't chew right now, so I have to eat stuff I don't have to chew. And I'm going, I cut the Pepsi out completely because about the same time the dentist told me my teeth were shot, and there weren't I don't have the deep pockets to go get fake teeth put in, and there was no service. There was at the end of the day they weren't going to be saved, and that they needed to all come out. And I was also seeing a doctor for although, like I said, the urination issue, and that is a sign of diabetes, right? And I knew I've been pre-diabetic for probably 20 years, and I kind of suspected, but I was in denial too, that I'd pushed over the boundary. And at the point when I first went in and they did the uh, blood work, and it came back at 11 or 1100. That's insane. A healthy person should be 100 or less in their glucose blood count when it comes to sugar. And I was at a point where they said, in some cases we would have been hospitalized if if it continued that way, because you can have a massive heart attack really quick, right? Among other things. Um, I immediately went home and cut out the Pepsi uh, completely. I just it was surprising how easy it was to walk away from it. I did it once before, and it gradually took over, because when you're in an extremely stressed environment like the 17 and early 18 was, it was really easy to fall back on something like comfort food. For example, I started spiking. My weight was going up again, and I hit 330. Then back over the winter, this past winter, I dropped almost 60 pounds. I was 330 ish going into the spring. So I guess over the summer and late and into the fall, I had dropped 60 pounds in about 6 months, and I wasn't trying. I started really noticing, because it become really quick as my pants sizes were had dropped several sizes, and it wasn't on purpose. I was drinking 10, easily 10 cans of Pepsi a day. Now, if you look at the calorie content alone on that's 2,600 calories a day in just pop. And then there's probably it's close to 420, almost 500 grams of sugar a day. It's like eating a bowl of sugar just straight every day. And in addition to all the other stuff. So I was consuming about 15,000 calories. Do the math yourself. If you find yourself just do the math. So I went and switched over to Pepsi Zero, and I did. I never liked the diet pops. That aspartame, that aftertaste that always lingers, always never could get past. It's like tea. I've tried tea numerous times, and I just simply can't get past the aftertaste of the tea in my mouth. So I never became a tea drinker. The uh, Pepsi Zero satisfies a little bit of that acidic taste that comes with pop, especially Pepsi's, that I like, and the caffeine. I'm not a big coffee drinker, so we're looking, my traditionally only source of caffeine was through pop. If you look at the sheer amount of caffeine I'm consuming on a daily basis too, it's retarded. Uh, so I went from 48 cans of Pepsi a week on average, like I said, about 2 cases, to about half a case, or half of a 12 pack, because I bought a 12 pack of Pepsi Zero last week, and it's still half. It's not quite half gone. So we didn't buy another one Friday when we went to the store. I've been drinking a lot of this stuff called Powerade, and it's the Powerade Zero, no sugar and no calories, right? And like I said in the past, I'm never really a big fan of these artificial things, because to me, they just doesn't taste right. Surprisingly enough, there's a number of these Powerade flavors that I actually find myself enjoying, and I have no problem drinking them and replacing what I've been drinking with. The other side is it's strange, because I accidentally bought some the regular sugar versions of these, and they taste, I don't know, much worse. Uh, the zeros they taste better. They're not as poignant or as tart in my mouth, I guess, however you want to look at it. But It's a health thing. There was a time back in 2000 when, and it's a cycle. We all fight these. Like I said, I've been overweight my whole life. As a kid, as an adult, uh, I spiked up to over 400 pounds in 2000, 2002. The company I worked for went out of, we had a strike. It didn't get settled. I lost my job and then went to college. And I spent 2 years basically sitting on my butt and doing college work and trying to avoid holding a job down at the same time, which really was a whole other bad mindset. But in that period of time, 2 years, I'd spiked from about 330 because I was averaging 330 throughout the 90s, late 80s. Uh, I got into the 300s in the late 80s and then 330 for about a decade. And then about 2000, suddenly I spoke up. I was like 420, 420 pounds or so. And I couldn't even climb stairs without needing to rest and lean on things and stuff like this. And I kind of was, I woke up and I started winging myself back off the pop. And I got more active, and it helped when I got a job and got employed again and found I needed or had some use once again, and went from there. So the diabetes, they put me on some medication. They're trying to avoid insulin. I'm not quite there yet. And they've had me doing them finger sticks like 4 times a day for the last 2 months. That sucks. I'm telling you, that's just not fun. And I average about 270. So my glucose levels are 270. And they recently got me on something called Travicity, where it's like an EpiPen. You shoot yourself with it once a week, and it's supposed to work in conjunction with these pills they got for the antibiotics, or I mean for the diabetes. Plus, now that the weather's starting to the sub-zero stuff's over, I'm fixing to start walking more. Like I said, I'm only 4 blocks from where I work. There's no reason on nice days I can't just walk to work and walk home, get a little bit of exercise. A lot of my jobs, if you've seen some of my older videos, I'm out all night sometimes at these big jobs where I sit for an hour at a time in a parking lot somewhere, where I can make a couple laps, just a little bit here, a little bit there. It's all like everything in moderation. Well, exercise in moderation too is still a good thing. Exercise is exercise, at least that's what everybody says. So physically speaking, I'm feeling much better than I was a couple months ago. Uh, I'm not the urge to go is not there like it was, so that tells me things are working. My weight stabilized, where it was really a wake up call for me. And we all have things that in our lives that we tend to brush over or ignore, and our health can be one of those things. And was that between the first visit to the doctor's office, 2 weeks later they had me come in for a follow up because one of the side effects of not having insurance was in 17 when my insurance ran out, so did all my prescriptions. I was on maintenance pills. Before that, I was taking stuff for hypertension and stuff for cholesterol and a couple other minor little things. But once those stopped, everything started spiraling upwards, and my blood pressure was not where they like to see it. My triglycerides were out of whack. So when they put me on, reestablished the medications, uh, I went in 2 weeks ago, and my triglycerides are right where they want them to be. My blood pressure's down where they like to see it. So these things are working. But in that first two visits, that 2 week window, I'd lost 9 pounds in 2 weeks. And the nurse looked at me and she says, "Are you trying to lose weight?" And I says, "No, no, I'm not." And that was part of that epiphany of the Pepsi's got to go, right? And I started we're buying healthier foods now than we were before. And I gripe about that a lot because if you know your budget, you go to the store, healthy food costs more. Some cases 2 to 3 times more. And I'll use bread as an example. Our local grocery store that we shop at is Hy-Vee, and they have their own in-store bread that they produce and sell. And their white loaf of white bread can run about $1 or less for a loaf of bread. The next healthier version, even in the store brand, is about two something for a loaf of bread. So if you want something with whole grain, something with the low fat, you're going to pay 2 to 3 times what it costs for the other thing. And I don't know what y'all grocery bills are like, but mine run about $200. We just simply can't. It's a rare day we walk into a store and on a grocery day and spend less than $200. Uh, we in part this last grocery day was 150, which was kind of shocking in part, but I didn't stock up on a bunch of meats and stuff like I usually do because we have quite a bit in the freezer, but in part because I can't chew a lot of stuff, so we have to use things that break down easier. And so I spend a little bit less, and I'd already had a supply. I'm not buying 2 cases of Pepsi. That's almost $20 right there. I mean, the stuff adds up so fast. It's nuts, right? An 8 pack of these smaller versions of these things is $5, but you don't have the nickel deposits on them either. So there's upside downside to that too. Health wise, keep mindful of yourself, and remember we're responsible for our own self too. And I got plenty of excuses and no answers. Well, I got more answers now and less excuses to try to do better. So that's on that side of things. And on my channel here, we'll look at a few things. Like I said, I just shot a number of videos, and probably noticed I tend to do these things in small batches. I'll do 2 to 4 videos, and then because for the week, so I have 2 for this week and then 2 for the next week, and this gives me a little bit of wiggle room. The downside, of course, when it comes to my real world scenario, once again, our company, the truck I drive and operate for the company, is about a year old now, or for us, it's a year old. It was 10 years old when we bought it, so it's a used, much better shaped truck than the old one. The old one was horrible. This one started kicking antifreeze out about 3 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago, we took it to the international dealership or the place to get it repaired, and they sat on it for 8 days before they even touched it. And then there was a problem with a broken bolt, and the only apparently in a shop with 20 mechanics, only one person knows how to get a bolt out, and that guy was on vacation. So I just got the truck back yesterday, which hurt me because 2 weeks ago I had 12 hours, and this would have been about 5 hours, but I put in 10 last night trying to catch up jobs. I have a stack of work orders just sitting on the desk at the shop in the office that are from 2 weeks of and most of these jobs that aren't going away. I have to expedite them, and including with the regular scheduled work we would have. Now we have a couple would have been shorter, less hour weeks. That's the thing with my job, especially with the COVID. We've seen a lot of restaurants, their capacity's diminished, or they just shut down completely. We lost about 20% of our restaurants in Des Moines here in the central Iowa, and then the rest of them are just hanging on by their toenails. So our business is connected to those, and in the large part, so it has play. And other jobs are time sensitive because the customer, we always cater to our customer. They want it on a specific day at a specific time, and there's only so many windows for that specific time and specific day. And if there's others, and once we start getting up, they either have to move to a different day so we can catch them up, or we have to let them go for however many. It could be a month, could be 3 months. The max is usually 3 months, but that's not based on percentages and things like that. And in the case, because there's regulations they're supposed to follow, but if they're outside the district, well then they're much different. They don't always happen as much. So I was out and I caught up 4 jobs last night, and I'm fixing to go out tomorrow morning and do one, and then tomorrow evening about 8 o'clock I'm going to work until about 4 in the morning again, catch up 2 more. Next week's check's probably going to be close to 60 hours, right? The downside is for the low checks. Our company's really good about looking after us. And it's been a rough year. Last year when the previous truck died, it was almost 8 weeks, 6 weeks that I was struggling, and the wife and I really depended on our credit cards. Our credit cards are, way up, and I can't do that this year. So we don't. There's just I have no point. I went to the boss, and the boss has basically fronted me enough money to cover my weekly expenses and groceries for last week, and they're going to have to do again this week, which means I will owe them probably $600, which means I have to pay back, of course. You know, I'm grateful for it. We would be, we don't have We have a little cushion, but I hate to tap into that cushion because it's there to be a cushion. And these things like this occur just often enough in my job that you would never have any cushion if you tapped it all the time. So in this case, when we got that last stimulus package, we used most of it to pay my wife's medication, so we got that covered this year, thankfully, and which was less of a burden. But we also took and put some back for a real emergency. So I want to keep that in there. It's not a huge amount, but I want to keep that in our stash, as we call it, for that purpose. If by God they actually pass this damn stimulus bill and we see that other 1,400, the wife gets 14. Uh, Child support usually gets mine because I still owe $16,000. It's got a little more 2.5 years to go, and I'm out from under that yoke finally. It'd be like getting a massive paycheck. That's $148 a week that they take out of my straight 40-hour check. So overtime's is usually the only way I make really good money. And like I said, it's feast or famine in our company. We have months where we're just hammered, and then we'll have a month where we're slow as hell. And sometimes there'll be a week or two that's just hammered, and a week that there's nothing or very little. So we can be 50 hours one week and 30 the next, and we can't spread them out that much because we're back to that time thing. There's only so many hours of the day, and so many opportunities to do specific things, right? So, okay, enough about me in that situation because most of you guys don't want to care, and this is just me venting and sharing for me personally, and I appreciate you listening. And if you didn't and you went through it, I understand. It's acceptable and understandable. So, talk about uh, the state of the channel, and you know what I think I'm going to do? I'm going to pause this and come back and start a second video. Be right back.